Prisons worldwide inflict terrifying, inhumane experiences on cartel members. From inmates self-mutilating at CECOT to forced ice water torture at ADX Florence and even organized gladiator fights at Pelican Bay. These institutions push incarceration to its most extreme and horrifying limits, a chilling reality for those confined within. CECOT El Salvador, the world's largest maximum security fortress. Our first destination takes us to El Salvador, home to the Terrorism Confinement Center, known by its Spanish acronym CECOT. Opened in February 2023 in Tecoluca, this massive complex represents President Nayib Bukele's aggressive approach to combating gang violence and drug trafficking. CECOT isn't just any prison, it's a sprawling fortress designed to hold 40,000 inmates, making it one of the largest penal institutions in the Americas. Its primary targets: members of notorious gangs like MS-13 and Barrio 18, many with direct ties to Mexican cartels, as well as members of the Venezuelan Tren de Aragua gang deported from the United States. San Salvador was the former murder capital of the world. CECOT is the world's largest prison, built to rid San Salvador of crime. In 2015, it was the murder capital of the world relative to its population. This situation was largely influenced by the operations of Barrio 18 and MS-13, two of the world's most dangerous gangs in El Salvador. The physical structure, warehouse living conditions. What makes CECOT particularly harsh begins with its physical structure. Inmates are housed in warehouse-like buildings with cells designed for fewer occupants, often holding up to 80 or even 100 men. Inside these crowded spaces, prisoners sleep on metal bunks stacked 4 levels high without mattresses, pillows, or sheets, just bare metal surfaces for bodies exhausted from 23.5-hour confinement periods. The daily reality for inmates at CECOT is one of extreme restriction. Prisoners are confined to their cells for all but 30 minutes each day when they're permitted limited movement for exercise, Bible study, or to attend online court hearings. This near total isolation is compounded by a complete ban on family visits and phone calls, cutting inmates off from any external support system. The world's most dangerous criminals are held 75 kilometers from the city on 165 hectares. Prisoners are under constant surveillance. The prison has 850 security cameras and 600 guards are stationed. Security measures are enforced at the highest level. Torture and ill treatment reports. Perhaps most concerning are the reports of torture and ill treatment. Human Rights Watch has documented cases of torture, including beatings with batons, electric shocks, and forced immersion in barrels of ice water. One 18-year-old was reportedly beaten for an hour and held in a dark basement cell with 320 other detainees, while another prisoner reported being forced into ice water 30 times over a 2-hour period. Basic amenities that most would consider essential human rights are severely lacking. Inmates face inadequate access to healthcare, food, and sanitation. Reports indicate limited or no access to clean water and nutritious meals, with food served without utensils to prevent their use as weapons. No rehabilitation, permanent detention. What's particularly troubling about CECOT is the absence of any rehabilitation programs. Salvadoran authorities have explicitly stated there are no plans for rehabilitation or release, raising concerns about indefinite detention. Minister Gustavo Villatoro has been quoted as saying, "These prisoners will never return to communities. Those who enter here will never leave. Also, the gang members in this prison don't have visiting days. Even from containment, some of the criminals in these organizations would continue using family visitors to send any useful information to commit crimes, and they will never see anyone other than the guards here for the rest of their lives." Domestic support versus international criticism. Despite international criticism, CECOT maintains strong domestic support. El Salvador has seen a 70% drop in its murder rate since the implementation of Bukele's hardline policies, contributing to his 90% approval rating. For many Salvadorans living in formerly gang-controlled neighborhoods, the trade-off between human rights concerns and increased security seems acceptable. The United Nations has labeled CECOT a black hole of human rights, highlighting the tension between security and humane treatment. President Nayib Bukele celebrated on Twitter in October, marking a full 365 days without a single murder in the country. San Salvador went from being the murder capital to becoming the safest capital in the Americas. ADX, Florence, United States, clean version of hell. From El Salvador, we travel north to the United States, home to what many consider the most secure prison in America, if not the world, ADX Florence. Nestled in the remote mountains of Colorado, about 100 miles south of Denver, this imposing concrete fortress opened in 1994 with a single purpose: to house the most dangerous criminals in the federal system, terrorists, serial killers, spy chiefs, and cartel leaders who are too risky to be held anywhere else. Among its roughly 400 inmates is one of the most notorious cartel figures of all time, Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, former leader of Mexico's Sinaloa cartel. ADX Florence has earned nicknames like the Alcatraz of the Rockies, and more tellingly, a clean version of hell. This last moniker comes not from critics, but from its own former warden, Robert Hood, who declared it not designed for humanity, a damning assessment from someone who ran the facility. Extreme isolation, 23 hours daily. What makes ADX Florence so harsh is its approach to isolation. Inmates spend 23 hours a day in solitary confinement in cells measuring just 7 by 12 feet. These cells are essentially concrete boxes with everything: bed, desk, stool, made of poured concrete to prevent destruction or weaponization. A former inmate described it as the harshest place you've ever seen. Nothing living, not so much as a blade of grass anywhere. The limited outside time consists of 1 hour in what's called the empty swimming pool, a small concrete exercise yard with a 4-inch by 4-foot skylight that prevents inmates from knowing their exact location within the facility. There is no human contact during these periods, maintaining complete isolation. Windows in cells are 4-inch narrow slits designed to show only the sky and roof, preventing inmates from seeing the outside world or other parts of the prison. Psychological torture, shoe syndrome. The psychological impact of this extreme isolation is severe. A condition known as SHU syndrome, Special Housing Unit Syndrome, manifests in symptoms like paranoia, panic attacks, aggression, and psychotic behavior. Jack Powers, imprisoned for robbery and sent to ADX after an escape attempt, spiraled into such severe mental decline that he cut off his earlobes, chewed through his fingers, and injected bacteria-laden fluid into his brain in desperate attempts at self-harm. Despite the psychological toll, privileges are severely restricted. Inmates are allowed just 15-minute monthly phone calls to close family members and 5 non-contact visits per month conducted through glass barriers. Good behavior may earn inmates a small black and white TV with radio or access to books and magazines, but these privileges are rarely awarded. Unparalleled security measures. The security measures at ADX Florence are unparalleled, including 24-hour surveillance, motion detectors, 1,400 remote-controlled steel doors, pressure pads, and 12-foot-high razor wire fences. Cells are soundproof to prevent communication between inmates, furthering their isolation. Even with these extreme precautions, violence occurs. In 2005, inmates Sylvester Mayori Rivera and Richard Santiago killed Manuel Torres, a Mexican mafia member in the prison yard, proving that even the most secure facility cannot completely eliminate violence. Perhaps most troubling is the suicide rate. At least 8 inmates have died by suicide at ADX Florence between 1999 and 2017, highlighting the mental health crisis fostered by extreme isolation. El Altiplano, Mexico, site of El Chapo's escape. Our journey continues south to Mexico, home to the Federal Social Rehabilitation Center No. 1, better known as Altiplano. Located in Almoloya de Juarez, about 25 kilometers from Toluca, this maximum security prison has housed some of Mexico's most infamous cartel leaders and was the site of one of the most embarrassing security failures in the country's history. Built between 1988 and 1990, Altiplano was designed as an impenetrable fortress featuring 1-meter thick walls, restricted airspace, and a cell phone signal blocking system covering a 10-kilometer radius. With a capacity for 724 inmates, it became the destination for Mexico's most dangerous criminals, particularly leaders of the country's powerful drug cartels. Inhumane conditions complaint. Life inside Altiplano is characterized by harsh conditions that have sparked significant controversy. In March 2015, nearly 140 inmates, including El Chapo himself, filed an 11-page complaint with Mexico's National Human Rights Commission detailing what they described as inhumane treatment. The complaint highlighted several critical issues. Food was described as spoiled, containing worms and rocks, posing serious health risks to inmates. Medical care was reported as poor or non-existent, with health issues going untreated. Cells and conjugal visit rooms were described as dirty and unsanitary, with foul-smelling mattresses and faulty springs. Like many of the prisons on our list, Altiplano employs prolonged confinement as a control measure. Inmates are typically confined to their cells for 23 hours daily, with limited access to exercise or social interaction. El Chapo's infamous tunnel escape. Despite its reputation for security, Altiplano became internationally infamous on July 11, 2015, when El Chapo escaped through a sophisticated 1.5-kilometer tunnel, exposing corruption within the prison system. This embarrassing security breach highlighted how cartel influence and bribery can undermine even the most supposedly secure facilities. Corruption remains a significant issue at Altiplano. Guards reportedly accept bribes for preferential treatment, creating stark inequalities among inmates and compromising security. This corruption extends beyond the prison walls, reflecting broader challenges in Mexico's criminal justice system. Pelican Bay, United States. Gladiator fights. Returning to the United States, we visit Pelican Bay State Prison, a supermax facility in Crescent City, California, that has become synonymous with extreme isolation and harsh conditions. Opened on December 1st, 1989, this 275-acre complex was designed specifically to house California's most serious criminal offenders, with a particular focus on gang members, including those with ties to Mexican cartels. The early history of Pelican Bay was marked by exceptional brutality. From its opening in 1989, guards established a violent culture that included beating inmates, tying them naked to toilet bowls, and staging gladiator fights between rival gang members. As we've journeyed through these facilities across the Americas, from the freezing heights of Chapalca to the extreme isolation of ADX Florence, from CECOT's warehouse cells to the chaotic gang rule of various prisons, a disturbing picture emerges of how societies treat those deemed most dangerous. Overcrowding, violence, inadequate medical care, and psychological torture through isolation are recurring themes, raising profound questions about where society draws the line between necessary security measures and cruelty.